I want to talk about what's coming from the left. You know, there's a radical left ecosystem, and I think broadly as Americans, we have faced some of the excesses of well-meaning progressive causes, whether it's in the DEI space, where sometimes Indian and Hindu students face challenges in college admissions. And of course, we saw what happened with the efforts to institutionalize caste. All of this is coming from South Asian groups that have kind of ridden on the coattails of the broader left ecosystem. So who am I talking about? I'm talking about South Asianists. I think most people who are active in the community know that more often than not, if an organization is under the umbrella of South Asian, it very often comes with anti-Hindu or anti-Indian sentiment or activism. Organizations there are the South Asian Scholar Activist Collective is one example. Then you also have within this broader South Asianists, you have Islamists, Khalistanis, as well as Ambedkarites or Neo-Buddhists. And all of these different groups have one thing that they may not agree on everything, but the one thing that they have in common is their detest for Hindus. And oftentimes India and the politics that are happening there. Actually, most of the groups that we have been attacked with, and when I'm talking about we, I mean specifically HAF, but also a lot of Hindu American candidates or those that are in public life. Most of those organizations like Hindus for Human Rights, Indian American Muslim Council, Federation of Indian Christian Organizations of North America, Overseas Friends of Indian Minorities, that's a Khalistani group. These groups have found common cause, and that common cause is to attack us, to undermine our work. To give you some idea of that ecosystem has been existent. So you might be asking, well, what's the big deal? Well, let's look at 2021. In 2021, an organization like Hindus for Human Rights, don't let the name fool you. They are actually Hindus against Hindu human rights. I don't know. There's probably a number of combinations that we can say about them. Their funding was at around $177,000. Their cohort in almost 99.9% of the work that they do is the Indian American Muslim Council. So in April of 2021, Al Jazeera publishes an article alleging falsely that we had taken COVID funds and sent them to India to harm religious minorities there. Who is this article written by? It's written by someone named Rakib Naik. Who is Rakib Naik? Well, he happens to serve on the Executive Council of the Indian American Muslim Council. This is what we mean by ecosystem. There's interconnectedness with these different organizations. Then Al Jazeera writes another article. Then the Bridge Initiative from Georgetown releases a fact sheet later in 2021 on the RSS, but who features almost 2/3 of it? The Hindu American Foundation. Why? Because we are one of the most effective voices out there serving our community. And then eventually when something like the Bridge Initiative, which has the stamp of approval from an institution like Georgetown, when that type of thing happens, where does it end up? In places like Wikipedia, which are unfortunately a resource that people turn to. That's on $177,000. Now let's fast forward to 2024. In the past few months, in October, there was a report called Savera, and it is very stupidly named Halfway to Supremacy, HAF, Halfway to Supremacy. And it's written by a new ghost entity called Savera. There is no corporate filings for this entity. There are no staff members, no board members, nothing publicly listed, but we have an idea based on what's posted on social media as to who wrote this report. So what? It's another report, except that now you have a think tank called the Policy Research Associates that also post this anonymously written report that attacks HAF on their website. Then what happens? Well, because this is a think tank, you have the Congressional Research Services, which is the exclusive research associate body for US Congress, citing to this anonymous report, now saying that HAF is a supremacist organization, advocating for a supremacist agenda. Beyond the CRS, you have a magazine called Baffler magazine that just happened, I think, in this past week, as well as Prism Reports that also released a report. So they're amplifying this anonymously written report that attacks HAF. Why? Because we've been effective. How do they all have the ability to do this? Well, Hindus for Human Rights, they had, remember, $177,000 in 2021. They got a $800,000 grant from the Tides Foundation, a very dark money institution that is spreading billions of dollars to far left causes. PRISM, Policy Research Association, as well as the Baffler magazine, all have been funded by Tides. So not only do you have now an ecosystem that knows how to cooperate, but it's being flooded with money. That is what we are up against.